Hello and welcome to the House of Transport podcast. Hi, I am Evan Williams.
I'm Apollo.
I'm Ariane Siraji. Hi.
I'm Yasin Allah. Hi.
I'm Jacob.
I'm Colton.
And today we are doing an episode about the Maryland MTA, but more specifically the Baltimore stuff. We're not covering like the other commuter buses that run into DC and whatnot. Just the Baltimore area stuff.
The Maryland MTA is the public transportation authority serving the state of Maryland, including the DC and Baltimore metro areas. They provide local and express bus service as well as metro and light rail service across the Baltimore region. Metro SubwayLink, and let us just pause to let that name sink in for a moment. It opened in 1983, near the end of the second wave of metro construction in North America. It never really lived up to what it was supposed to be. There was a much larger plan for the system that included, I believe, 7 lines. But it travels from the large Johns Hopkins Hospital through downtown and then the University of Maryland, and then heads northwest through some of the densest and poorest neighborhoods in Baltimore. Trains eventually exit the tunnel onto a former West Maryland Railroad right-of-way as they head deeper into the suburbs before finally ending up in the median of a freeway. The entire line is just 15 miles long and travels largely through low-density auto-centric areas. As such, it is currently the lowest ridership metro system in the States, ignoring the godlike system that is Cleveland.
We love Cleveland, but
My name is Cleveland Brown.
Of Ohio.
Ohio best state.
That is Rogers Avenue, and it's pretty typical of stations on the northwest part of the subway, which is the entire part of the subway.
Now, I'll add, Rogers Avenue is probably one of the better stations because there are stuff you can walk to.
Yeah, you can see those homes. Wow.
I've walked
Separated by
around there a
barrier.
lot, taking buses there and stuff, and it's very disconnected from Reisterstown Road and the rest of the area.
Yeah, but
because
compared
there's
to
only
Milford,
one pathway.
but compared to Milford Mill, it's way better. than that.
Oh yeah, Rogers Avenue is one of the most I would say useful stations on the entire network.
At least
but,
at least on the above ground portion.
Exactly.
Anyways, the Baltimore Metro, outside of the sort of urban area and the underground portion, it follows the Western Maryland right of way. And, as with most railroads in the Chesapeake area of the country, around DC and, well, actually, no, this is more just Western Maryland. They didn't do a lot of town building around their rail line. And so there wasn't a lot of good settlements to connect to in the first place with the Metro.
Yeah, in most of the country, everything was built around the railroad, but in the old parts of the country, the railroad was built around everything.
Yes, and this is why
Unfortunately, not very well.
And this is why Penn is not actually in Baltimore's downtown. Yay! Although
Yay!
that probably has more to do with the B&O, but that's a story for another time.
Yes, the body odor railroad.
Yeah, and Baltimore's secret second railway tunnel.
Ooh.
Ooh, spooky. Now, the Metro Subway Link isn't even the most embarrassing transit line in Baltimore, excluding the name anyway. That honor goes to Light RailLink, which, yeah, you really think they can think of a better name, right?
When they rebranded, they came up with Local Link and City Link. That works, but then they tried to add it to everything else, and it just did not.
Baltimore, they have a not so good light rail line. This was built sort of as what the north-south line of the Baltimore Metro proposal. We have that right here. Yes. This line right here is the north-south line that was proposed originally for the Metro system. But that didn't get built. Instead, now we have a light rail line that runs between here, goes through here, roughly paralleling where the Jones Fall Expressway goes. Then it goes down here, goes to what is now known as BWI, not Friendship, and just to the side of Glen Burnie. Not all the way into Glen Burnie, just to the side of Glen Burnie.
Quick side tangent. I'd like to note that I think timonium sounds like a rather B-list element.
There's also lithium. I don't know. There's
Linthicum?
yeah,
Linthicum.
yeah.
That's actually what it's called, Linthicum.
We're on a roll here then. All right.
They were gonna make it go down there, the Metro, but then the Anne Arundel County residents decided to veto it.
Continuing on, the LRT system opened in '92. Coming from its branch terminal at the airport in the parking lot, it follows a right-of-way north through even more low-density suburbs, with a connection at the Mark Camden line on its way in downtown. So it travels on a really weird service line right through downtown with really poor service to the CBD or Central Business District to those who aren't inclined in that terminology.
Yeah,
And-
Baltimore wanted a light rail, but they didn't want to spend money, and this is
Yeah.
what you got.
You can really tell because they didn't even bother including a connection to the goddamn subway line they built. They built the light rail line with no connection to the subway.
It's a block away. It's fine.
No, it's not. I'm tired of pretending it is. The lack of system-wide connectivity is a pretty major feature of Maryland MTA, as demonstrated by that lack of a connection. So the line, anyway, continuing on, the line branches north of downtown with a spur connecting Baltimore Penn Station, and the other branch dodging out of the way of the extremely dense Charles Village.
The only way to get from Baltimore Penn Station to downtown, quote unquote, by rail transit as well, because the metro doesn't run to that. But
it also doesn't take you all the way to downtown.
Amazing planning.
However, there is at least some redeeming qualities. They do, I believe, still run a dedicated shuttle that just goes from Camden Yards to Penn. So, if you want
Every 30 minutes.
Oh,
That's
God.
a
I
Newark
don't
light
run that
rail moment.
anymore.
This is a certified Newark light rail moment.
If we look at this beautiful image here, it's too beautiful for our light rail line. This is the northern part of the line, the one that runs along the former North Central Railroad. And as you can see, it is surrounded by woods and lakes. In fact, it literally goes on a little causeway over Lake Roland. So,
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Really pretty.
it is
It
really
is
pretty.
really, really pretty. But those
Yeah.
kind of all are red flags for a rapid transit line.
Yeah. I will never be angry with the fact that they built the light rail where probably the strongest corridor in the city for heavy rail would have been, which is the one north from Charles Center and then onto Greenmont Avenue all the way to Townsend. That would have been the strongest corridor, I feel.
And the thing is, though, it's still not entirely out of the question. We'll get to this more later with future hopes, but the light rail line really bypasses that. It's consistently a few miles to the west of where it should be.
Yeah, then of course it bypasses 5 large universities. I'm forgetting which ones exactly they are, if anyone knows them by heart. Go ahead.
Morgan, Loyola, Hopkins, and that's it. Oh,
Towson
and
is the
Towson
one.
University.
Towson, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Goucher.
Yeah, speaking of Towson, it also bypasses the entire suburban commercial center of it.
Which is massive.
Right here.
Yeah,
Though to be fair, if they were to build it through Towson, it would almost certainly have no dedicated right of way.
This
Yeah,
is
for
They used
sure.
to have a train that went into there, but then they removed that.
I
Well,
mean,
wasn't that removed like a long time ago? There's like barely
It
any
was a
remnants
really
of it left.
long time ago.
anyway,
They've developed that whole area.
These are like, I believe it's density correlated with frequent transit, and this is Baltimore here on the left and Washington, D.C. on the right.
Yeah, so those redder areas are, of course, going to be the denser areas in the inner city. The purple is outlines of major job centers. So, you can see in the north of Baltimore, you've got Towson. A little bit further south, you've got Charles Village, which is just out of the reach of the rail line. Yeah, and then downtown Baltimore, the CBD, Johns Hopkins. And if you compare Baltimore and DC, there's a lot of interesting things to note. DC's rail system, of course, and those are the darker dashed circles around rail stations. It really does a much better job of serving those suburban commercial centers and a lot of pockets of density. But you'll notice that Baltimore's bus system is actually quite a bit larger, their frequent bus system, and it does a much better job of serving the inner city than DC's does.
I'm gonna come to the assumption that these maps are the same scale, right?
Yes, they are.
It is also important to note that that frequent bus map basically completely falls apart on Sundays.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, it's really bad. On
The
like,
light rail
it's like
doesn't start
1
running till
hour.
10.
Oh.
It's horrible.
Here, as with most post-war metros, you can see like bus to rail integration in terms of infrastructure is extremely good. Basically any
based.
above ground station in post-war metros has really good bus rail integration consisting of the bus loop. The bus loop is pretty prevalent.
That's pretty based.
The light rail is like 50-50, good and terrible.
Yeah, it's
It's
mostly the
mostly
metro.
terrible though. Mostly terrible.
There's a few that are okay, like Patapsco's good, Glen Burnie's good. I'm just talking about bus to rail, but like Mount Washington's horrible.
Oh, like Lutherville's a major hub for the Red Line and the 95.
I know Falls
which go up
Road.
there.
Falls Road is directly served by the 34, and it's very funny. In order to get there, you have to go through in order to access the Falls Road station by car or by bus, you travel through this ridiculously sketchy route. Like you turn off onto a very steep, very tightly turned old road, go onto a steel plate bridge that awkwardly joins with the road, and and turn off into an area that looks too industrial, and then oh, there's a train station here. What the?
It's right under the bridge.
A few of the routes extend north, and the ones that extend north beyond Falls Road, they used to serve Falls Road as well. They used to deviate into it, and now they don't because apparently the left turn onto Falls Road was too dangerous for the buses.
Makes sense. That road is scary.
I've driven in that area many times to get to the park by Falls Road Station, which is the one thing it serves well.
Lake Roland is very nice, but that little they have a little pedestrian bridge that connects the park to the station.
You can sort of see here. This is, I believe, a map of Baltimore's sort of major bus routes. Which
Oh yes, the one thing
colored.
Baltimore does really well: graphic design.
This is
Ooh,
true.
that is pretty.
But the map on
Oh.
the left is from the 90s. The map on the right is from today, and it's kind of hard to see all the routes on that map on the right because most of them are gray with the new rebrand. But you can see that there's actually a fair bit less service today than there was in the 90s. So that's
Well,
just a little-
the question is, how frequently did the service in the 90s run?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was not marked.
I guess this is probably worse today.
Probably.
If you go on to look at the Bel Air Road corridor,
In
which
West
is served by the
Philadelphia,
Brown line, there's now served by an express bus that only stops there towards, what is it? It's only during peak hours on weekdays, which does not serve the entirety of Perry Hall, the entirety of a lot of communities, the entirety of Kearney, and it's pretty sad. And even that Providence Road park and ride does not exist anymore. And for instance, a lot of the lines past 695 that extended past to serve people who still use the bus there, they aren't present anymore.
The closest route to where I live is one of the funniest routes in my opinion, one of the weirdest routes in the system that I feel is worth talking about, even if it's not relevant to the general picture of Baltimore Transit. It is the 92. The 92 is a bus that serves to get students from the Jewish students from the Pikesville area to their Jewish schools in the suburbs. So it goes outbound in the morning and it comes back in the evening. It does not run on Saturdays, but it does run a little bit on Sundays.
This is on Saturdays.
L'chaim.
It's funny. It deviates around Pikesville, and then there's three variants. One of the variants deviates around Pikesville and then runs for several miles with no stops on Park Heights Avenue until it gets to a Jewish school, which is served, has one stop there. On the map, it's called Velvet Valley, but it's a Jewish school. And there's no sidewalks to it or anything.
Yeah, Apple Maps is struggling to understand what this is. It's a little bit chaotic.
This sounds like a certified B110 moment. It's similar route. It's a similar-ish route that is privately run. It's the only privately run local bus in New York City that runs between two Jewish neighborhoods in Brooklyn.
Fun.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've seen the 92 around before, and I have seen ones that were quite full. So people ride it, mostly Jewish school kids, but
So in effect, it's a glorified school bus.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's my
Yes.
Baltimore radial map? I want the circle one. Where's my circle?
Oh, it's
I'm-
pretty.
Oh,
That
no,
one's
we-
pretty.
And you can find it on the website.
Speaking of, I'm noticing a lot of orbital bus routes. Is that what, on the frequent side, on the right side of the map? Is that
And I'm very curious also to our Baltimore residents, because this is something that I haven't seen any other U.S. city see, where they'll have the designated local link versus city link and differently colored bus routes. What purpose does that serve? Do you know?
Branding.
Because
It's
these
really
aren't-
easy to do. It's easy
Yeah,
to
right.
comprehend as well. Because before it would be the Towson route was the 5, the green one was the 3, the Bel Air Road one was the 11 or 15 or something like that.
It's also
But
useful
then
as
they consolidated it.
it's also useful as a general rule of thumb. If the route has a number, it's terrible. If it has a color, it is less terrible.
Nice.
so what you're
Exactly.
saying is BRT light?
No,
That's- Okay, so worse than that. Got it.
at least they don't pretend it's BRT.
This is true.
And then
Sure.
you see the the dotted portions past the solid lines, that means it comes every 30 minutes to an hour.
Oh,
And the rest of the route is supposed to be every 15 minutes.
Yep.
I
On,
think it's
peak
15 minutes.
hours.
I think it's like maybe
Oh.
20 or less. I'm not sure.
Oh, this
It's
is
like-
not good.
Like on the red line and the
there is
brown
almost
line.
there is almost no frequent bus service outside of the city proper.
that's sad.
Yeah, past 695 is the rule that it's impossible to get anywhere past 695, like taking public transport.
Well, now I know what areas of Baltimore to avoid. Thanks.
Guess
Oh,
where
yeah.
I live?
You poor thing. You poor thing.
Oh, rip.
Yeah.
I don't even have sidewalks.
Me-
Oh no!
I don't have a
I live like
car.
right on the city line.
I don't
The
even have a
area
car.
where I live is very pretty, but it is only accessible by car.
Ouch.
Um,
Speaking of car accessible areas, Owings Mills. So this is about the only extent that I know of that Baltimore is actually sort of like TOD'd around their stations.
You know what screams transit-oriented development? 2 8-story parking garages
those parking lots are fun though.
Hey, yeah, they don't look like parking lots.
and a large surface lot on the other side.
I see one benefit to having those massive parking garages. A single benefit.
What?
Which
What?
is-
Homer
Right.
spots.
They're pretty. They're a pretty view from them.
You can go be a foamer from the roof. That is the only positive to this.
Exactly. That's what's
But
so
is
fun
that-
about it.
This
is
is
that
true.
really a positive?
This is
Yes.
true.
No.
I mean, if it wasn't for parking, I wouldn't be able to use the system, but it doesn't need that much. And I think that my guess is when the developer talked to the MTA about using that area, they probably were legally required to like not take away any parking because America. So they had to just put it all in garages regardless if it was needed. That's my guess.
We'll say that parking minimums are a terrible idea and should be abolished wherever possible.
I do want to say, epic handshake, Baltimore MTA, WMATA, giant parking structures at the end of their lines.
Not for the light rail. The light rail just has some surface lots, and they're not actually that big
You know what?
comparatively.
That's just like systematic of the light rail. It's everything the metro,
Well,
but just terrible.
they are turning the fairground station. They're giving that thing a massive parking lot. They're like doubling its size,
Okay, never
and
mind.
it's all surface.
Yeah.
Used that lot before to get to the county fair or the state fair, and like people just use that lot just for free parking.
Of course they do.
I mean, I would too. I mean, people use that with a lot of the stations for the MTA. They just park there for free and then just use the parking to get wherever they need to.
When I go to Lake Roland Park, I just park at the light rail station because it's never busy.
This is why you don't do free parking for your rail transit. Pay for it. Make sure it's paid because free parking is just subsidizing people to drive.
It's
Yeah, I
true.
mean, people
Even-
would probably take connecting buses if it was a reasonable option.
Ooh.
Also, side note on the Owings Mills station, there used to be a mall there, like very close to the metro station, that they knocked down, and then like people used to actually take the metro to get to that mall, but then they knocked it down,
And now there's a
and now it doesn't
Costco
really
there.
serve anywhere. The Costco, yeah, of course, there's a Costco.
It's a
Costco.
nice. As a member of the server, I'm probably supposed to hate Costco because it is so car oriented. But goddamn it, I love going to Costco.
No, I like Costco too.
Let me put it this way, right? There's a Costco on the East Riverfront in Queens. I think in like it's either I think it's in the Astoria area. It actually has a really tiny parking lot. It's meant to be walked to, and yet
What?
when my cousin lived I don't know, like about 3 blocks away, they still fucking drove there.
I posted before and after Todd pictures of Owings Mills, and you can see it used to be way worse.
Yeah,
it
that
used
is
to
a
not
lot,
even have a pedestrian connection to the area behind it.
Oh
that
Oh
is
boy.
my gosh.
honestly, that is a lot better.
Oh, and the library is nice too. I like the library there.
There's like, at the Owings Mills station,
Oh.
like there's a lot of security there as well, and because a lot of people, like drug addicts, go to that station just because it's the end of the line, like the homeless people will,
Oh, fun.
and then just stay there till the next train goes, and then they'll come right back on and then take it for free because it's warm.
Mm-mm.
See,
Yeah.
that's also a problem we have with the E line and the R lines because both of them are entirely underground. So in the wintertime, people who are destitute, I guess is the best way to put it right now, they will tend to stay on the train because no one kicks them off.
Sad.
It's,
Yeah,
it is,
it's,
it's It's a sad reality. So this happens. This is common in a lot of American cities. Just people stuck on the transit system because they have nowhere else to go. It's a systemic issue, I'd say. But
To transition into what we were about to talk about, I will say that I was just recently talking about this regarding Link Light Rail, which also has a lot of homeless people on it. Speaking of light rail,
Oh. Oh.
So
this
sad.
is so sad.
So sad.
my ears.
F to pay respects.
Memoriam redlined.
All I gotta say is fuck Hogan, and fuck Hogan.
Just it's
You
such.
just said his name 3 times. You've summoned him.
Oh no.
Nah. He's getting out of office next year.
This
Oh,
is
thank
true.
God.
This
Finally.
is out of the office coming straight for you.
God bless.
Anyways, yeah, the red line. It's such an obvious route, and it serves not only some of the poorer areas of Baltimore to the west, it also serves some of the growing areas like around Fells Point, which has been seeing a lot of growth. It had a downtown tunnel, which was insane. Wow, that's like
And
10
it's
times
also
better.
the reason it was canned, but it needed the tunnel.
Oh, but it got canned over the Purple Line being spared.
NB's in Fells Point and
Well,
Canton.
basically, Hogan wanted to can both of them, but the businesses around the Purple Line begged him not to, and were somehow able to convince him not to, and that failed to happen in Baltimore to the same extent.
Why not both? Why not both?
Exactly. And where did the money for this actually go?
I don't remember.
Someone
Oh,
box,
towards the
probably.
bus link, the local
the
bus
oh,
link.
yeah, right.
It was
That.
told
So
that
funny. They
the
spent a quarter
Wikipedia
of the
page
money.
said that it was all diverted to rural communities in other parts of Maryland.
That makes
Aw.
sense.
No.
I mean,
That makes sense.
I guess I can't complain, but I'm still sad that they cut the funding for it. I'm
'Cause I
also-
think Frederick Link was now established around that time, as well as something else.
I'd also like to mention I'm a little bit annoyed that there's no connection with the SubwayLink.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Oh, they were going
Speaking
to
of
make
that-
a downtown tunnel to connect the light rail, the red line, and the metro all together
The
around
infamous-
Lexington Market. I mean, honestly, what they could do is just put a light rail line going straight through the highway to nowhere, which is Route 40, and then connect it through Lincoln Park. But past on the east and west sections, there is no actual right of way for them to do anything with.
they were going to use
mean-
the highway to nowhere for the red
Yeah.
line.
I think they're still going to reserve the right of way for the highway to nowhere for transit, since they just have it and it's been talked about for so long. Even though there's not really that much to serve besides the West Baltimore MARC station.
Yeah. I mean, there's still
Yeah.
some pretty dense neighborhoods there, though.
Well, they were.
I mean,
before the
they're-
highway plowed through.
Yep.
Fair.
There was I think it was 20,000 people were displaced just because of that highway project.
Oh my god.
Damn.
Really? Wow.
And it split off 2 entire separate neighborhoods in West Baltimore on the historic black center of the city, connecting it with the southern parts of it.
And how many
and
people
it
rely on
screwed
that
it up.
highway? 3?
No one. I literally have taken photos of that, and there's 5 cars that go under every minute or so. Actually, not even minute, every 5 minutes.
That is a bit of a highway to nowhere.
Yeah.
And then
Lines
they
to
have these
nowhere.
pedestrian bridges that go across it, which are literally the most sketchiest things I've ever seen.
Actually, you know what?
It's scary.
Speaking of this, right? How do you build a highway and somehow displace 20,000 people doing it? What absurd right of way does this thing take?
A full block.
I mean, I think-
70s and racism.
yeah, they were trying to displace as many people as possible.
You draw a line and then take the entire city blocks in that line, regardless of if the whole thing actually needs to be demolished, and just wipe it off.
They were gonna connect it up to I-70 and make it run through Glens Fall Park through to make I-70 go into downtown. Thank God they did not do that, but that was the
Ready
whole
for
plan
freeway
with Route
revolts.
40.
Haha.
Yes, God bless.
So do we want to talk about sort of this in the future?
This 2002 plan.
I can't look at it.
It is pretty cringe.
There's some good things about it. I think that bringing light rail into downtown is all right. I do think, though, that as previously mentioned, that north-south yellow line corridor, which would be a really strong corridor, there's just not a lot of existing right-of-way along that if it's really going to serve all these new destinations. And so I think having it be a light rail line and interline with the other line just does not make a lot of sense. It would probably need to be a fully grade separated metro line.
Light metro. Light
Light
metro.
metro, yes.
Just
that would be wonderful.
do the Vancouver thing. Do the Vancouver thing.
Yes.
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 I'd also like to point out that there are 2 separate red lines in this plan.
I want to know how they were planning.
That is true.
I want to know how they were planning on converting the MARC lines for rapid transit.
I have no idea. And
Don't worry.
Magic.
About it. Don't worry about it. Worry about that later.
Magic, that's how.
And why?
I like
If they're spending all the money to convert the MARC lines to rapid transit, they didn't even attempt to like vaguely hint at like making a link between MARC and the metro by Upton. I mean,
no, they did.
I like how there's still connections to MARC on the MARC line.
I mean, if you look on Google Maps at the Upton area, there actually is an opening into the tunnel where hypothetically you could put a really small station without too much difficulty if you really wanted to. Though I don't know how you'd link it up with the underground station.
Oh wait, you know what? I got this. For the rapid transit thing, right? Just steal some M8s off my. Oh wait, no, they can't run 25 hertz. No.
Anyways, elsewhere on the plan, there's this line, which I think is pretty funny. So it would have connected up to the MARC BWI/Amtrak BWI station, gone through Dorsey.
Yeah, I want to know how the service pattern with like the tiny spur remaining to BWI would work.
And then go all the way to Columbia Town Center with light rail.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the light rail service patterns are very funny, especially the way they divided up the blue and the yellow lines.
Reverse
Yeah,
branch
that
I've always wondered.
is not okay.
Like it's a spur of a spur.
I mean, if you
on top of another spur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hub and spoke to a new level, everyone.
I mean, you should probably just cut it off when it meets the blue line to have higher frequencies on both sides and just force a transfer to the blue line. I mean, even if the blue line isn't very useful when the yellow line exists, it's probably worth having a couple trains run on it just because you already have the infrastructure. Might as well use it.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
they can extend it down to Glen Burnie more, because the current station in Glen Burnie is like a mile outside of the center of Glen Burnie, and it's a horrible walk from that station to the center of Glen Burnie.
But creepy people, but crime.
Ooh, black people, no, we don't like that. Anne Arundel hates that.
By the way,
that's literally what it is.
The only drug users we want in our neighborhoods are our own children. I like the one-stop I-95 spur.
Oh, that is just so funny.
I don't even know where that is. Like, I do not know where that would be placed. Like, I have no clue.
Oh, what is the point of Martin State Airport?
Yeah,
it's an existing station.
And it's next to the a military base.
It's by a military base. Lots of commuters park there, and it gets a little bit of service on the weekends because just north of it there's a small yard.
And there's what else is there? There's like a bunch of industry around there as well for like
there's
transport.
There's lots of aircraft manufacturing there. The one thing that is difficult to get to from Martin State Airport, however, is Martin State Airport if you don't have a ride.
Yeah,
like,
I've ridden the bus up there.
If you want to like get to the airport proper, it's like a 40-minute walk. I mean, it's not a huge problem that you can't get to the airport because there's no commercial flights there or anything.
I know, but why
it's like National Guard.
Yeah, but then at that point, then why bother calling it Martin State Airport Station?
Because there's nothing. It's the most interesting, it's the biggest, easiest to identify thing by the station. You actually pass right by the runway on the train.
Ooh, that's
pretty. I've always looked at this plan and wondered how they're gonna put it up Greenmont and York Road, because there is no right of way. There is nothing else they can do.
Obama-style streetcar.
Oh no.
Obama-style streetcar. Okay. I mean, they could put like I've always thought they could do like an old style like Philly elevated up there, but that type of projects don't exist anymore.
I wonder if they could get away with a dedicated right of way for just one track with passing loops. I mean,
Honestly, I don't know.
I mean,
That's a,
it's just very difficult because it's super narrow, and everybody would throw fit if you wanted to elevate it, and everybody would throw
yeah.
fit if you wanted to bury it. Plan I've always liked the idea of taking the existing light rail and then building a spur north of Falls Road to wind through Towson, GMBC, and then Towson U, and GMBC. Because there's actually plenty of space to do it. It gets a little tricky once you actually get to Towson proper, but it's mostly just woods and parking lots and stuff. And woods, parking lots, a big hospital you want to serve, a big university you want to serve, and then Towson.
okay.
And
They
Yeah.
could make it
I mean,
underground. They
Apparently,
could put a tunnel
the
through.
NCR actually started doing grading, like getting the terrain at the right level, for an extension like that, but never wound up building it before they
Wow.
closed.
You see, you say single track with passing loops. It's a bit of a Hamamatsu moment. They managed to do pretty good frequencies with that, but it's heavy rail with short trains. So
What,
Hamamatsu Japan.
mhm.
I think it's Hamamatsu. They have they have a short spur line going off from their main station going to the north. It's not that long, but apparently it's pretty frequent. But it's entirely single track with passing loops at every station.
Yeah,
They
if you design that kind of infrastructure for the service they're going to be operating, you can get very savvy with it, and like as long as things are timed right,
Except
yeah.
existing light rail line, doesn't it have 15-minute frequencies in place because of single tracks?
It has. I mean, if you're on the branches at the south, it has 30-minute frequencies.
20 minutes. It's more like 20 minutes to be completely honest,
So
because it's late a lot.
It's scheduled to be 20 minutes during peak and 30 minutes during off peak. And my favorite detail is the way that during peak, in order to improve frequencies on the main section of the light rail, they short turn trains at Timonium. So the north of Timonium, the light rail has 15-minute frequencies off peak and 20-minute frequencies on peak.
Of course. Just that's a moment. That is
It's really bad too, because like majority of people take the light rail to get to BWI. Not many people take it down to Cromwell unless you're like, I don't even know. But
there's busing connections
BWI
there.
is important. But the thing is though, a lot of the people that would take it down there usually have cars.
Even if I wanted to like use the Baltimore light rail to get to the airport, it takes like over twice as long as driving because of how slow it goes downtown.
Yep. And the connecting businesses around the Cromwell station are like a freaking like it's a Warhammer store. I think a Kmart, one of the last Kmarts in like Anne Arundel, and like I don't even know. It's like a liquor store too.
Yeah, and forgot what I was going to say.
Speaking of forgetting, Baltimore Metro, what is in store? So this is like from 2017, but supposedly they're getting new trains at some point, built by Hitachi.
I've seen two different renderings for the new trains. One of them looks like that, but the other one's like red and looks very different, but also still looks pretty good. And the one cool thing about the Baltimore Metro, that when we first came into existence, Miami was also building a metro. So for once, U.S. transit agencies did something smart, which was build their metros to the exact same specifications and get a bulk order of trains. And apparently we've done that again for our new trains, though Miami's gotten them way sooner and has already finished replacing their fleet, while ours are still being manufactured.
LA's the distant cousin because they were also supposed to do this, but then Bud died, so
they ran
got
late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is. Well, I mean, you know what? I think Baltimore can handle the Bud cars for a little longer because Bud builds everything like a goddamn tank.
This is true.
Bud
They're
builds
really good
everything like
cars.
a tank.
I'm not gonna lie, like those cars are probably like one of my favorite Metro cars, like out of all the Northeast like systems.
Look, just to prove a point, right? You know, the Metroliner cab cars is still kicking somehow. That just proves that just a testament to Bud's build quality. I don't even know how
Bud,
this thing's still
Bud
alive.
has cars from the 40s that are still running in regular commute service, like in Portland, I think.
Okay.
So what's the future plan?
Overall, like I will say, just coming from a Seattle perspective, where we are expanding rapid transit at a very rapid rate, this is just kind of sad to see as a 50-year plan.
Oh, that's painful.
It really is.
Are we
The only
talking about the
rail
plan is like?
extension.
Are you talking about the future plan is like? Here's a bunch of places that we'd like to have something.
Yeah.
It's like the most bare minimum plans that you can get. It's like no
it's
rail at all.
It's an acknowledgement that no, it's not. I think it's no commitment to any mode.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
It just says
It's an acknowledgement of we have no money and no clue how to get it.
It's
Hey,
just
but you know what they're doing? They're finally extending it to Newark. They actually put that on the plan that they're
Oh
going to
yeah,
extend the
that's
march
like
to Newark.
that's in legislation now to study that.
finally the connect.
And
Finally,
But you said we're not supposed to
connections
be
to
talking
march
about Mark.
to Northern Virginia
okay,
too. Finally.
You know what this means, right? I'll finally be able to do my funny and go from Fredericksburg, Virginia, all the way up to New London, Connecticut on commuter trains only.
So this is literally it. It's just a bunch of corridors they've outlined, and that's it.
That's pathetic.
Yeah.
That is honestly pathetic. Rip
Oh,
Hagerstown.
y'all forgot about something. Y'all forgot about something. The brand new commuter bus from Baltimore to Frederick. That's it.
Nah, it's
Oh,
honestly not terrible.
Ocean City bus?
Yes.
Ocean City
The
bus.
the idea of a commuter bus, as long as it's not peak only, as long as it has some bidirectional service, the idea of like a bus from Baltimore to Frederick, I don't think is a terrible idea.
This
I mean,
is true.
if New Jersey can pull it off, then anyone can pull it off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also bus to Ocean City is a good idea too because there's barely any transit to Ocean City, so besides it being a
Exactly.
huge tourism destination.
The Bay Bridge is always
I've always
congested.
thought, like, I don't want to be fucking stuck in traffic the entire time. Why don't they have a bus between Baltimore to Ocean City?
The
It's
Bay-
such a big destination
Even if I'm
for
stuck in
people in the
traffic, I
summer.
can be sleeping.
the Bay Bridge.
Exactly. Or
the Bay
doing
Bridge.
work or doing whatever. That's why people ride the bus.
I could be playing a game. I could be playing Transfer and building an even better connection.
I could be pooping on a bus. I could be pooping on a commuter bus.
This is true. You can.
Do commuter
Exactly.
buses have? I don't think commuter buses have toilets.
It depends.
They do
I
have
think.
toilets.
Some do.
I mean,
some do.
you could still poop on it, but you shouldn't.
I mean,
it would be very rude
you know
to the other
the-
passengers.
The 201 bus from BWI to Gaithersburg
I've been-
actually
that's
has a bathroom.
Really, I've always been interested in that bus because it's just such an it's a very interesting route. There's nothing else like it in the state.
I've ridden it like 4 times
Is
to
it
get to one of
useful?
my friends.
Oh, I
It's
guess it
actually
is.
very useful.
It just
'Cause
seems to
one of
like
my
have so
friends
few
was
stops,
there.
and it's only stops in like park and rides.
Look,
People
I'm gonna have
use
to go-
it just to get to the airport, though.
At some point, I'm gonna have to go and explore Baltimore.
Yes.
I recommend it. I
Alright,
recommend it.
I'll have to dedicate a weekend to it or
Did you
something.
say explore or explode?
I mean, I'm Middle Eastern, so either works really. God damn it.
You're the only one who's allowed to laugh at that one.
Just remember this: Baltimore, do not rely on the rail transport. We are
No.
buses primarily.
That's
Bus
where's the-
primarily city.
A little bit metro if it happens to go where you need to. And what is the light rail again?
Yeah.
What is that? Runs
You
on
know, the
City,
one nice thing about the metro is if it happens to go where you want it to go, which it probably doesn't, it is very fast.
It's really fast. I think it's the fastest on the it's faster than
It's one of the
it goes
fastest
70 miles an hour.
It does go 70, I think.
That's
Wow.
faster than
It
Wilmata.
actually beats traffic when on 795 often.
Wow.
Yeah, you
for
can
like
get-
the 2 minutes where it's on 795. But
From Owings Mills down to downtown, it's faster. The metro's faster to get downtown.
Wow, you guys have slow drivers.
No.
No, it's 'cause there is nothing.
The metro takes a direct route, which thanks to the good type of NIMBYs is not paralleled by a highway for most of it. I mean,
Yeah.
if
Honestly-
it weren't for the freeway revolts, then it would probably be faster to drive because 70 would go right there.
Well, no, you'd have to somehow get down to 70 though, which
It's just not far because we're starting from a
Ah,
highway.
True.
And the
But if
Baltimore
you
Metro
look-
still has to make stops and go less than 40 miles an hour for most of its route.
Yeah, it looks like it's about 30 minutes to ride the whole line, which is pretty fast. And I don't know if we talked about the frequencies yet, but it's every 15 minutes, just flat all day.
Uh,
It's like 8 minutes during peak.
Oh, really?
I mean, let's be honest here. The light rail is more like an interurban.
Yes.
Hmm
And the metro is less of like a New York City or Philly type metro and more like a DC commuter thing.
The metro is one of the unlike BART, it actually successfully walks the line between urban and suburban.
This is true.
rail.
Yeah. Because when you get to the Upton and North Avenue stations, like walking around there, not the best. But the people use it around there. The people do use it around there. And that's honestly what's good about it is like the underserved communities between like Mundalman. Mundalman's a very good hub because there are
Name.
like 10 different bus lines that go there. 2
There's a-
colleges right next to it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's also the it also has the unfortunate distinction of being literally where the Baltimore riots started.
I mean, yeah, it can get bad, but like people who like live in the city and use the bus are used to things that aren't like commonplace on like other systems I've noticed.
Is the wayfinding good? That's all I gotta ask.
Yes.
Varies.
Okay. Good to know.
I'd say the wayfinding isn't very good for certain parts of it. Like there's like barely any signage for bus connections at Mount Washington Station, when even though it's a couple blocks away because of the road layout.
Okay,
And
so
also
yeah.
signage could definitely be better. Like there should be signage. In my opinion, there should definitely be signage to Penn Station from State Center. It's a 15-minute walk, but it's the closest you get to the metro. But I don't think there is very much signage.
okay, so on a scale of let's say on a scale of 30s New York to current London, how would you rate it?
30s New York.
30s New York, so everything was just like tiled into the walls.
Yeah. Better than that.
Okay, so
I
so
mean,
We're
so
setting a pretty low bar here.
well,
Fares are
yeah.
really easy
Were
on
you
the
really-
buses too.
Oh, what's the fare? What's the fare like? Yes, this is important too.
It's $4.40, which is the cheapest on the East Coast that I've
Oh
ever
my.
seen.
That's the day fare. Unlimited rides on the bus, metro, and light rail.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh.
And also you can pay on the bus, unlike Philly
Yeah, the
and New
single fare
York.
is like $1.90, I think, right
It's
now.
yeah, it's
That's pretty
$1.90. You just
reasonable.
put $2 bills in there and then you're good.
Is there a fare card or no?
Charm
There is,
City.
but
It
Smart Trip
sucks.
also works.
Yeah, Smart
oh,
Trip.
Wait,
Oh.
smart. I have a
Smart
smart
Trip-
card actually.
Yeah, Smart Trip is compatible. Smart Trip and Charm Card are both cross-compatible in both cities.
Although I will
Based-
say, how do you even get a charm card? Because I think the website isn't that
It's
good.
in one place, and that's at the MTA offices in downtown,
Really.
and where you can just take a card.
They-
I
they
have
al-
one.
They also have an app, which I personally have had good experiences with the app.
Oh, the app's good, except people like to screenshot it a lot and then use that and then
Well,
like
don't
act as though they bought it.
don't they have to see like the moving like trains in the background?
People move on too fast. That's the thing. Is like people walk on way too fast for the operator to see that.
True. I guess I was thinking of like fare inspections on the light rail.
When I was a sophomore year in high school, like I had friends who do that. They would screenshot it, the app, and then just get onto the bus using that. Even though it's like $2.
See, this is at least better than New York. People just jump over the turnstile for $2.75.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, half the time the turnstile at the metro stations is literally open. You can just walk on the free. And like on the buses sometimes as well, like you can just not pay. Like they'll just let you go on for free, like everyone, because they'll have the fare box machine completely stuffed up full of what is it? Of like the day passes. They'll just stick that in there because I think they're going on overtime, so they just let people go on for free.
Damn.
So one thing I'll mention, completely unrelated to what we were talking about, is that improvements are being made. If you look, this is two screenshots of a Strode near Owings Mills Station, and one of them is from a couple years ago, and one of them is after like they redid the whole road to like as resurfaced. And you can notice there is one incredible transit improvement in the second one. Look closely, see if you can find it.
Except transit vehicles. Whoa!
Yeah, it's like not quite a bus lane, but like buses are acknowledged.
They don't mark it, but it is a bus lane, so the car owners don't have to be upset that they now cannot drive there.
No, I don't think it's anything has been reduced for cars. It's just that a right turn lane is now also a lane buses can use to go straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Does it have signal priority?
Probably not.
Probably it doesn't look like it. No.
And
I
on
think signal
that,
priority might exist a little bit downtown, but I'm not sure.
and on that depressing note, it is time to conclude our first episode. Yeah,
Rip.
Baltimore.
There's a pretty upbeat general story going on here with this city.
I'd like to sort of call this a certified Baltimore moment.
Hi, it's your resident editor. When this podcast was first recorded several months ago, the Baltimore MTA had not released a lot of information about their east-west transit in their new plan. And so this is what we had said at the time.
It
Yeah,
involves
so
hey, we should have east-west transit, not saying what it is.
I know. I'm like so annoyed over that. Are they gonna do BRT, light rail?
I think
Like,
the
what is
idea is
going
they want
on?
to have it open.
They're gonna do a hybrid Translo, light rail, and BRT. It's all three.
It's just gonna be
Oh,
like
God.
it's gonna be like a 5-foot wide sidewalk that says walk faster than normal.
It's gonna be a, let's see, a 2-yard long bike path with buses go right through the middle of it.
hi there, it's your editor again. In the time since that was recorded, the Baltimore MTA has actually provided additional details on what east-west transit could look like in the city. And so there are currently 7 alternatives. There are 4 that involve BRT, and these serve a variety of different alignments. All are typically in centralized locations, which makes sense because BRT is more flexible than rail transit options, although it also provides less of a benefit. There are 2 light rail alternatives. One of these almost entirely parallels the initially planned Red Line, while another one extends a little bit further east and has a slightly different alignment to the east. And then the highest capacity option, of course, is heavy rail. And I think that we all want to see the Baltimore Metro expanded. It's just unclear if this is the way to do it because the line would, to the east of the city, not really serve core areas and would actually follow along the northeast corridor, meaning it would miss a lot of density and not really serve the key destinations and neighborhoods that really need rapid transit service. And with the heavy rail alternative, there would actually be a BRT on the outer section that would connect to heavy rail. So those are the 3 options. You can debate in the comments which one you think would be the most useful.
Goodbye, and thanks for watching this very first episode of the House of Transit podcast. Bye.
Yay!
So I believe this is Douglas Road. I don't remember what their stations are called. Somebody can help me out.
Rogers Avenue. I love that
Douglas
station.
Road.
Listen, it's got a name. It's a person. No,
For those keeping track,
just-
we
let's
put
just call
this
it Jeff.
together. We
Let's just call it Jeff.
No,
put
that's
this
Rogers
together.
Avenue.
Hang on, can you zoom in on that?
No.
we
Damn. Okay. And I'd
And-
also like to make a quick note before we go on any further. Before I forget this, there's an American Dad episode where Stan's father is canonically a bus driver in Baltimore.
Oh, I've seen that episode. That one's good.
This
I thought I
podcast.
mentioned that before I forget.
This podcast is brought to
That
you
was
by
great.
American Dad.
I might need to go watch that. What even is our next slide? Talking about the future and stuff?
We don't have a next slide. It ends.
No, that can't be.
No.
Oh my God.
Wait.
Okay.
I've mistakenly not put in the plan. That's my bad. Okay.
You can talk about
Imagine-
it.
Imagine that you're looking at a plan of Baltimore's future transit in the next 50 years.
It is currently the lowest ridership metro in the system in the states, ignoring the meme that is Cleveland. Obviously,
Hey, don't
Now-
meme Cleveland.
I will meme Cleveland all I want. It's Ohio.
And on that depressing note, we should
There,
end.
one other interesting bus route I want to talk about. Sorry.
And on that
and-
happy note, we
wait,
end it.
Wait.
Oh no! God dang it!
I'm gonna. No, you're not allowed to end this. Yeah.
I'll see y'all.
See ya.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they
yeah,
Good luck
Yeah.
editing this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Joy.
All right, podcast over. Folks, go home.